In the ancient time of southern Africa, the year 1879 marked the dawn of the Zulu War, an unforeseen clash between the mighty British Empire and the formidable Zulu Kingdom. The British, ever expanding their colonial reach, viewed the independent Zulu Kingdom, led by the formidable Cetshwayo, as a potential threat to their dominion over Natal. The tension reached its peak when British authorities delivered an ultimatum to Cetshwayo, demanding the surrender of Zulus accused of murdering British subjects. As the echoes of the ultimatum lingered unanswered, the Commander-in-Chief, Lord Chelmsford, initiated a campaign on January 11, 1879, venturing into Zululand. However, Chelmsford, seasoned in South African warfare, found himself unprepared for the fierce tactics employed by the Zulus. Dividing his forces into 3 columns, Chelmsford aimed for a strategic assault. Colonel Evelyn Wood led the northern column, crossing the Buffalo River, while Colonel Pearson commanded the southern column along the Indian Ocean coast. The central force, led by Colonel Glenn and accompanied by Chelmsford, set its sights on Ulundi, Cetshwayo's main kraal, with the intention to unite with Pearson's column for the final assault. Amidst the challenging terrain and slow progress dictated by ox carts carrying supplies, Chelmsford faced setbacks. Heavy rain further impeded movement, causing rivers to swell. Short on troops, Chelmsford reorganized his forces into 3 columns, enlisting Colonel Durnford to collaborate with Glenn's central force. Choosing Isandlwana Hill as a focal point, the British forces reached it on January 20, 1879, and established camp. However, the ominous shape of Isandlwana, resembling a crouching lion, foreshadowed the impending clash. Cetshwayo, recognizing the gravity of the invasion, mobilized an unprecedented Zulu force of approximately 24,000 warriors, splitting them to confront both the southern and central columns. On January 21, 1879, Major Dartnell's reconnaissance encountered the Zulus, resulting in a prolonged engagement. Chelmsford, receiving the intelligence, resolved to face the Zulus head-on. The 2nd Battalion, 24th Foot, Mounted Infantry, and Artillery were poised to march at dawn on January 22, 1879, setting the stage for a pivotal confrontation. Meanwhile, Colonel Pullen remained in camp with the 1st Battalion of the 24th Foot, awaiting reinforcements from Colonel Durnford's column. On the morning of January 22, 1879, Lord Chelmsford and his forces, joined by Major Dartnell, embarked on a search for the elusive Zulus. To their surprise, the Zulu warriors had skillfully evaded them, slipping away to the Isandlwana region. The first hint of a Zulu threat reached the British camp when Zulu parties were spotted on the northeastern and eastern hills. In response, Colonel Pullen, in charge of the camp, swiftly directed his troops to form a defensive position facing east, the direction from which the Zulus had been observed. Realizing the imminent danger, Pullen urgently dispatched a warning message to Chelmsford about the looming Zulu threat. Around 10 a.m., Colonel Durnford arrived at Isandlwana with mounted troops and a rocket troop. Hearing reports of nearby Zulus, Durnford left the camp to investigate, with Pullen pledging support if needed. Captain Cavey's company of the 1x24th was stationed on a hill to the north, while the rest of the troops in camp remained on standby. On the heights, Durnford's mounted troops scouted for the Zulus. A troop pursued a retreating Zulu party until, unexpectedly, the entire Zulu army emerged from a fold in the ground. Faced with the sudden appearance of the mounted volunteers, the Zulus advanced in a somewhat disorganized manner, organizing into the traditional assault formation, the left horn, central chest, and right horn. An officer from Durnford's contingent raced back to Isandlwana, warning of the imminent Zulu attack. Receiving Chelmsford's message to break camp and rejoin the column, Pullen, unaware of the full extent of the Zulu threat, acted as if the primary concern was supporting Durnford. He deployed additional troops, including Captain Mauston's company, to join Captain Cavey's on the hill. 2 guns were repositioned to the left of the camp, with infantry companies backing them. As the Zulus pressed forward, Durnford's rocket troop succumbed to the onslaught, its equipment captured though the Royal Artillery crews managed to escape. The main Zulu frontal assault appeared over the ridge, prompting Mauston's and Cavey's companies to hastily withdraw to the camp, firing as they retreated. Pullen's battalion, arrayed in front of the camp at the base of the ridge, unleashed a volley of gunfire on the advancing Zulus in the chest, who struggled with the numerous dongas or gullies, obstructing their path and eventually took cover. The perilous situation for the British unfolded as the Zulu horns maneuvered swiftly, attempting to encircle the British flank. On the right, the companies of the 24th and the native infantry struggled to prevent this envelopment. Compounding the challenge, the Zulus managed to infiltrate between the British foot companies and the irregulars under Durnford. Amid the chaos, a significant issue for the British arose: a shortage of ammunition and logistical failures in the resupply system. While the 24th seemingly had an adequate supply, Durnford's men on the extreme right flank ran out of ammunition. Forced to mount up and retreat to camp, this vulnerable moment left the British flank exposed. Seizing the opportunity, Zulu chiefs motivated the chessed warriors, previously pinned down by the 24th's fire, to renew their assault. The onslaught forced the British troops to retreat toward the encampment. A Zulu regiment swiftly moved between the retreating British center and the camp, and the horns closed in on each flank. The British line crumbled rapidly. As the line disintegrated, pockets of resistance formed, engaging the Zulus until ammunition was depleted, and they succumbed to the overwhelming force. The Natal Carbineers, commanded by Durnford, continued to fire heavily until their ammunition was exhausted. Undeterred, they fought on with pistols and knives until they were all ultimately struck down. Although the horns did not completely encircle the British camp, some soldiers managed to head towards Rorke's Drift. However, the Zulus intercepted the escape route, forcing the soldiers from the 24th into the hills, where they were relentlessly pursued and killed. Only mounted men found their way to the river through a more direct southwest route. Approximately 60 soldiers of the 24th Foot, led by Lieutenant Anstey, found themselves cornered on the banks of a tributary of the Buffalo River and met their tragic fate. The last survivor of the main battle, a soldier from the 24th, sought refuge in a cave on the hillside. He valiantly continued the fight until his ammunition was depleted, and he too was shot down. The final chapter unfolded along the banks of the Buffalo River, where a number of men were caught by the Zulus. It is believed that local inhabitants in Natal, influenced by the Zulus, descended to the river and, following Zulu directives, attacked British soldiers attempting to escape. A poignant episode from this phase involved Lieutenants Melville and Coghill. Melville, the adjutant of the 1st Battalion, the 24th Foot, likely retrieved the Queen's color from the guard tent towards the end of the battle. He rode out of camp toward the Buffalo River, which was swollen from the rains. Halfway across, Melville was thrown from his horse but clung to the encased color. Coghill, also of the 24th Foot, crossed the river shortly after and went to Melville's aid. Zulus, now lining the bank, opened a fierce fire on the two officers. Coghill's horse was killed, and the colors swept away. Both officers struggled to the Natal bank, where it is presumed that they fell victim to Natal natives. Melville and Coghill likely met their demise around 3:30 p.m. At 2:30 p.m., during the peak of the conflict, a total solar eclipse briefly cast an eerie darkness over the battlefield, intensifying the already surreal and harrowing nature of the encounter. The aftermath of the Battle of Isandlwana revealed the devastating toll on both British and Zulu forces. A staggering 52 British officers and 806 non-commissioned ranks lost their lives in the conflict. Despite the overwhelming casualties, approximately 60 Europeans managed to survive the ferocious battle. On the African side, 471 warriors, fighting in support of the British, also perished. Estimations suggest around 2,000 Zulu casualties, accounting for those who died on the field or succumbed to wounds. The Zulus seized a significant victory, capturing 1,000 rifles along with the entire reserve ammunition supply of the British column. Upon learning of the calamity that befell Poland's troops, Lord Chelmsford was left in disbelief. He had left a considerable force, 1,000 men, to guard the camp, and news of its capture shook him profoundly. Chelmsford's column returned to Isandlwana, setting up camp near the haunting battlefield. Chelmsford harbored fears that the Zulus might press further into Natal. The sight of Rorke's Drift mission station ablaze in the distance confirmed his apprehensions. The Zulus had crossed the Buffalo River. The British government, determined to avenge the defeat, dispatched formidable reinforcements to Natal. General Sir Garnet Wolseley arrived to replace Lord Chelmsford, but it was after the final battle of the war. Cetewayo's triumph at Isandlwana, though momentous, marked the beginning of his ultimate downfall. Amidst the grim tales of battle, some acts of bravery emerged. Private Samuel Wassaw, attached to the mounted infantry, earned the Victoria Cross for his heroic actions. Escaping the battlefield on horseback, he witnessed a comrade struggling in the water. Wassaw courageously recrossed the river, rescued his fellow soldier, and, with the Zulus in pursuit, swam to safety on his horse. The recovery of the Queen's color of the 1st Battalion, 24th Foot, from the Buffalo River was a symbol of resilience. Presented to Queen Victoria, a wreath of silver immortelles adorned the staff tip. Lieutenants Melville and Coghill, who met their fate along the Buffalo River, were posthumously awarded the Victoria Cross, immortalizing their sacrifice in the annals of history.